Hello and welcome to the Company Chits Conversation. And I am so excited to have today's guest, Miss Julia. Miss Julia, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. When I saw your bio, I was like, wow, you did so much. And I also see that you came through so many obstacles that could have took anybody out, but it didn't take you out. And so I salute you and I'm so proud of you.
Definitely. I really appreciate that. I always tell people that life is pretty much just like the ocean. Some waves could completely wipe you out, and then other waves are just beautiful. So,
So just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today.
yeah, definitely. So I'm originally from Seattle, Washington, and I would say that my entrepreneurship journeys pretty much started at like the age of 18. So having, family members such as my mom and my brother and my grandmother and my stepdad, entrepreneurs in the family, it was like, it's kind of like in my blood per se. And I was just always raised to be like ambitious and have like a strong work ethic. So, at the age of like 7 through probably like 12, my stepdad used to pay me like $100 a day to like feed and take care of all the dogs.
Wow.
And yeah, I took that job seriously. Like you couldn't tell me nothing. I was like, I'm gonna be the best dog trainer, dog feeder there is. And that's where I learned about consistency, and then, he would always like sit me down on the weekends and make me wash my shoes and clean my laces. And he's like, can't be walking around with dirty shoes, dirty laces, and just like just always just on me. And from there it's like learning and kind of cultivating, those skill sets. So taking into entrepreneurship, me having that consistency, that early work ethic, it's helped me to really become a serial entrepreneur. And I've created businesses, I've sold businesses, I've failed businesses. And I've also worked with a lot of clients over the years. So I've been a brand developer for over a decade now. So
What? You
a
look
long
so
time.
young.
Right. So I'm only 30. I just turned 30 in September. So
but
um it's funny.
yeah, but that's because you got started so young.
Yes, yes. I got started young. I failed fast. I failed hard. And even like to this day, like I still fail, and I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned is to like just be okay with failing and falling on your face because it's gonna happen.
And so, how do you stay consistent? You mentioned that that's like something that you learned as one of the pillars of what you do, but how do you stay consistent?
Yeah, so that consistency is more so just like reminding myself that nobody else is gonna do it. And I have kind of like a script I say to myself. Like it probably sounds so crazy, but I have like a script that I read to myself when I definitely don't want to be consistent. And I also do allow myself the grace to take breaks. Like it's okay for you to take a break, but it's not okay for you to give up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of small businesses would have a lot more successes, especially for all the entrepreneurs and creatives out there, if they develop that mentality like, okay, if I'm overwhelmed, if, I keep feeling like I'm hitting this ceiling, this brick wall, let me step away from it from a bit, but just always come back, right? Because you can come back and you see things differently. You have, maybe a better perspective, me learning how my trauma affects my business, like, oh man, that was like, ooh. And that affects your consistency too, as well. So it's definitely one of those things where you are gonna constantly talk to yourself about, but also too, if you really love entrepreneurship as a whole and you really just love your business, it's like a kid. It's like having that troublesome kid. Like, I love this kid, but boy, this kid be giving me a run for my money. So that's pretty much what kind of
Mhm.
keeps me grounded in that.
So how important is pivoting in business?
Girl. Pivoting is crucial when I tell you, okay. So my very, very, very first my very first business was a business where I was selling knockoff designer bags at like
Mhm.
17 years old. Right. So you can imagine, that was my first business. And I just knew, I was like, oh, I'm going to become a millionaire from selling these knockoffs. And, and I told people they were knockoffs. So I wasn't like false advertising, like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is the real deal. But that's when I learned about like merchandising and like quality control, right?
Yeah.
And learning that hey, like all these bags are not made equally, and you're gonna have customers upset. Then I'm running through like shipping issues and
Oh.
supplier issues, and I was like, okay, I gotta get out of business. I gotta get out of this business. And from there I pivoted to artist management and development,
Mhm.
and that was due to the fact that I had about 3 years of experience working in radio. So I used to work for Clear Channel Radio between the ages of 16 and actually like 15 all the way up to 18. I was their youngest intern in like corporate history. And learning like what it takes to really like start an artist to blow up their songs, to also market them, and like how do radio stations make money, how do they satisfy their partners, what does the advertising look like. So I took all those skills that I learned from that opportunity and I put it into the second business, which was artist management and development. So it's like learning how to pivot, right? To
Yeah.
where, I went from artist development, and like I was 18 years old setting up tours for like clubs and venues that I couldn't even get into.
Yeah.
And I signed my artist to a local record label within like 2 months of working with them. So it was just like I just had that mentality of like I can do it. Like I don't care what my age or the fact that I'm a female or any of those things. Like I don't care. I can do it if I really sit down and research it and really put my mind to it. And that has helped me become successful, but also has helped me learn when to pivot, when to change things, and when, like, okay, you've done as much as you can in this space. And if you want to do more, then you're going to have to change from being um, consistent to learning how to become a disruptor.
Yeah.
So when you want to become a disruptor, that's like when you're changing the game, like you're creating a whole new playing field that the world isn't used to. And I just knew I didn't want to do that within that space.
Mhm.
And I was like, I want to learn how to become a disruptor in other situations. And I want to work with small businesses. And so that's what made me birth my small business agency. And so I still work with small businesses, but my new baby is PodMob.
Oh,
And that is the creative and podcast content creation space here in Atlanta that I've recently opened. So,
oh, you live in Atlanta?
yes,
Oh,
girl.
girl, I didn't know. So we neighbors then.
Yes. Where you based?
I'm in Kennesaw.
Oh, girl, you right up the street. You right up the street. So yeah, you definitely have no excuse not to come by. So
Definitely.
I'm right here at Atlantic Station. So
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
yes, yes.
And so it also said, I was intrigued. It says you are a domestic violence advocate. How did that come across?
Yes. So I got married when I was about 23. Yeah, 23, 22.
Mhm.
And in that relationship, we were together since I was like 16. And so during that time, that was the very first real relationship I ever had. But it was a very like toxic relationship. And I ended up being abused mentally, verbally, emotionally, physically, financially, every type of level of abuse. I completely went through it, to the point where, like, there was times where I was like jumping out of moving cars to try and
Wow.
like save myself from getting hit, to like being ATL stomped, like, and having to, go to work and act like nothing was wrong.
Mhm.
And I remember looking back on it, I felt like this is the best that I'm going to get. This is pretty much like what I'm going to have to just continue to deal with, because my self-esteem was low. My confidence
Mhm.
was low. At the time, I had just lost my brother and my grandmother within a
Wow.
year of each other. And that put my mom in a very, very sad, headspace to lose her mother and her firstborn son, within a close time. So it just like pretty much shattered my family emotionally. And I ran into the arms of somebody who should have been protecting me,
Mhm.
but didn't. And so, with me getting out of that situation, that's how I ended up here in Atlanta. So,
Wow.
I actually like just like one day he was at work, I like packed up everything. Like I called one of the homies and I was like, "Hey, look, I need you to help me pack up this house
Mhm.
before he gets off at like 9 o'clock." And
Wow.
within like 6 hours, we packed up the whole house, put everything in the storage, and I was on a flight to Atlanta like that very next morning.
Wow. So have you heard from him since then?
Oh yeah, yeah. And then we officially got divorced when I was in about 2018 is
Mhm.
when my divorce was finalized. And I can say that like we've had a lot of conversation previously, and that was pretty much, a lot of sorries and
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done that to you. And, I was going through a lot of things internally, which you can empathize with to a degree. But,
Yeah.
when a certain amount of damage has been done, there's no coming back from that. And something that I've learned, that I realized back then, I was too prideful to call my mom for help. I
Yeah.
was too prideful to go back home because I moved out at 18. Like a
Yeah.
month after my 18th birthday, I like moved out of my mom's house and got me a little apartment and thought I was doing something. You couldn't tell me nothing. And to this day, like I will always tell young girls, like, stay at home as long as you can. Please do not get out here. um, because especially in our culture, like, we want to grow up so fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, no, I'm telling you, little baby, no. You are not ready for these grown folks problems.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, because I was always told I was so mature for my age,
Yeah.
always. And so I felt like, well, yeah, I can do this. Like, and then on top of that, I was a stepmom to like two kids, two toddlers.
Oh, wow.
So, 18, there was like a lot on my shoulders. And I just felt like I can do it. I'm superwoman, like, all while being abused at home. Like, so it's like, to the outside world, I'm looking okay, but inside I'm really like dying inside. And I remember at one point it got so bad to where like I completely wanted to end my life.
Wow.
And I did. I tried to like literally blow my brains out. And
Wow.
what ended up happening is the trigger jammed, literally. And
Wow.
that's what like stopped it completely. And I just broke down in tears. And I was just like, I gotta figure out a way to get my life back.
Mhm.
And I think that's pretty much has been the story of my life. It's just that, like, no matter what comes at me or gets thrown my way, is me figuring out, boom, how do I roll with the punches? But if I get down, how do I make sure I stand back up and I stand on top of whatever it is?
So, what advice that you would give to someone who's in domestic violence situation? They don't know how to get out, don't know who to turn to for help.
I would really say, one, call around to in your city for a domestic violence hotline and resources. What a lot of people don't know is that a lot of cities do have programs that can, one, help with relocating. Two, they can also help with helping you create an escape plan
Yeah,
as well. If you don't feel comfortable, divulging that information to a stranger, really find a friend that you really love and trust and who you feel safe with. Um, at the time for me, I didn't necessarily have any friends that I felt safe with to, like, devise a plan and talk to them about what was going on.
hmm,
I felt like, well, this is my problem. I got to deal with it. And it's just
yeah,
like, no, it's okay to always go back home, and it's
yeah,
okay to start over, right? I think when you're in that space, you feel like you can't start over. You feel like there's nowhere for you to run to, because in those situations, that's how you're made to feel. You're brainwashed to feel like
yeah,
nothing out there better than me. You can't do anything without me. And so it beats down your confidence to the point where you're like, I can't do anything. They could tell you that the sky is money green and you're gonna believe it. and,
yeah,
and 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 it's scary when you think about, like, wow, how one person can have that much control over your life.
yeah,
But also too, it can remind you to empower yourself, that if an external person can have that much control over
wow,
your life, then what do you think you can do with your life?
yeah, exactly,
And you gotta own it, and you gotta own your trauma. You gotta own that, like, okay, yeah, I'm in this situation, but I don't have to stay here forever. Like, this doesn't have to be the enemy. And then, like, putting a lot of safety precautions in place. Like me, I came 3,000 miles away. So I put enough space in between, and although the family and whatnot that I had here in Atlanta, like, he had no connection to. Like, he didn't
yeah.
know who they were, like, he didn't have any addresses, so, like, if he wanted to come down here on a plane to find me, it just wasn't gonna happen. So, but yeah, again, as an advocate, I'm always here, to talk to anybody who's in that situation, because at the end of the day, it can feel like people will judge you, because people will say, well, what makes you stay? And, like,
Yeah.
even, I had people ask me, like, why did you marry him? And I'm just like, my wedding day was not like
Yeah.
a conventional wedding day. I wore a black dress to my wedding because it was a funeral that day. Like, like I knew, like, this is not gonna be, you know. But I really, I was under duress. Like, me and him got into, like, a huge argument right before we went up to the altar.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
like, the signs were there.
Yeah.
Everything was there. But I just didn't have enough enough will to say, like, no more.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes, like, certain things to happen for you to get that initiative and get that to a certain point where you're like, I'm out of here.
So what steps did you take to rebuild your confidence after you left him?
Ooh, girl. These are some good questions. Rebuilding my confidence was crazy. It was a crazy process. And it's even something that I still struggle with to this day.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think it's just not as bad as it was then. I know for me, going to therapy and finding the right therapist has helped with my
Wow.
confidence tremendously. doing some inner child work, which I know that term gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
But what I did was I wrote a letter to uh the 7-year-old Julia.
Wow.
And I wrote 11 I wrote a letter to the 7-year-old Julia, and then I wrote a letter to the 16-year-old Julia.
Wow.
And doing both of those, it made me recall a lot of memories that I had suppressed during those time frames. And then it also made me see the little girl within me that's still there. And it made me hold her close. And it made me, tell her like, I love you, like you are beautiful, like you are amazing, like you don't have to, you know, do so much for other people to prove your worth. Like you are worth so much just by being here. Like, and I think children probably need to hear that a lot more.
Yes.
Especially when you hit those teenage years, because you're constantly in a world that's kind of trying to tell you who you should be, what you should look like. You're not worthy if you don't have this and that. And so I really feel like, just rebuilding that connection with myself tremendously helped my confidence.
Yeah. No, I feel like that is so awesome. And you mentioned therapy, and I know that is such a scary term, especially in the Black community.
Mm. Therapy to us is like kryptonite. We be like, what?
That means I'm crazy. It's like I'm
People
not
be wanting to
crazy.
fight you about you telling them that they need some therapy. They'll be like, what? I'm not the problem. Now, and what I realized with therapy is that you should find a therapist that you like.
Yeah.
I think we have like this bias about therapy, like it's gonna be this stranger that's just gonna tell me what my life is supposed to be like. No, 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 no. Like that's not a good therapist. A supportive therapist is going to ask certain questions, but they're also going to make statements, if anything. So, like, I remember my therapist, before I started therapy, I sent her this long list of like everything all the trauma I've endured from the age of 1 all the way to like the age of like 25. And she read this list and she was like, she said, one, I've never had a client send me anything like this. But she said, but two, she was like, Julie, do you not realize that you've gone through a lot? And when she said it, it didn't dawn on me. Like,
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, I mean, I've been through some stuff. She's like, no, 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 no. You've gone through a lot, ma'am. Like, I need you to really like sit in that space for a second. And when she said that again, and she was like, and a lot of things you've been through are really sad.
Yeah.
And when she said it like that, like I was just like, dang, like we have been through some stuff, you know. And that's when I realized to have like grace for myself.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
have so much grace for other people when they tell us like, oh, I've been through this and that. We're just like, oh my God, like I'm so sorry. Like, we have so much empathy for others, but when it comes to ourselves, we lack it completely. And I was like, oh no, like I am so sorry that happened to you, Julia. Like I'm saying this to myself. And it just shifted my perspective from just, being good at just, oh, when something happens, bury it, get over it, keep going, to okay, something happened. Like let's process this for a
Yeah.
bit. Um and then even understanding, the fact that I get triggered, and understanding that I'm gonna forever get triggered but it's how, I respond to those triggers. It's how, I can realize like, okay, are you triggered because you're thinking of something that happened in the past? Or are you triggered because you're in a situation where you're either emotionally or physically not safe?
Yeah.
And I think asking myself those questions, it allows me to process things in a more mature way, in a more precise way, and not just being so reactive to everything that
Wow.
happens.
That is so awesome. Yeah, that is such good advice. I never heard anyone say that before. It's basically managing your triggers.
Yes, yes. Managing your triggers, because like that's the thing, like some people will tell you like, oh, you won't be, if you're fully healed, you won't be triggered. That's a lie. I'm sorry. That is a lie. Don't let
Yeah.
these people lie to you. You will be triggered forever, but it's just like you don't have to explode off of every trigger.
Yeah.
And also too, like creating a safety plan for yourself. So like, okay, if I'm in a space where I'm not emotionally safe, I speak up on it and I say
Yeah.
like, look, I don't like how you're talking to me, or, hey, I'm expressing what you're saying or doing is making me feel this way. So I would like you to do X.
Yeah.
Being very vocal about what you want when you are triggered, and like what is the consequence, if somebody violates you, like being strong on that. So like if I feel violated, I'm quick to walk away, like, and I'll tell you that I feel violated, you did this, and I'm walking away.
Yeah. And that is
Like
okay.
yeah, it's okay. I don't have to ghost. I don't gotta do none of that. I can just be like, look, like this is no longer serving me. This is definitely not gonna serve you. This is about to go downhill real fast. So I think we should just do this. But
Mhm.
your triggers are part of your makeup,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So it's like you're never going to get rid of them. You're never going to, just be without them. I think it becomes problematic when you choose to ignore them or you choose to explode on them every time it
Yeah.
happens.
And so tell me more about your studio. I see it in the background. Tell me more about it.
Yeah, so it's what, about almost like 1,200 square feet. I've created about 7 different curated sets so people
Mhm.
can record their podcasts or record their content, workshops. They can have events here. Pretty much it's just a real creative space. And so with that, me and my team, we're here to help people, whether it's to, help you with your reels, or whether it's to actually record you with your podcast and set you up with the mics. So we pretty much do it all here. And my thought process with creating this space was I want it to be affordable, but I also want it to be a space where people can feel inspired and really be able to connect and create everything that they've ever dreamed of. So
Wow, that is so amazing. So if someone wanted to come, where can they learn more information about it?
yeah, so they can go to podmob.com, podmobb.com. We're also on Instagram at podmob, podmobb. So we mobbing all over the world. But it's cool because, like, right now I'm running a really great special where everybody who wants to create content here, they can create for free for the first hour. And then after that, they can pay a discounted rate of $30 an hour if they still want to keep creating. So, again, we're here to help the community, not rob the community. So we'll be doing monthly like workshops here to actually teach people how to market and distribute their content or their podcast. We'll also be teaching people how to pay themselves. So that way, even if you claim self-employed, you can still qualify for a house. You can still qualify for that car you've been dreaming about. Just really helping people build those stepping stones to get to where they're trying to be.
Oh, girl, and you saying Atlanta's Atlantic Station? I definitely gotta come. That'll give me an excuse
Yes,
to come.
definitely come anytime. We're open Monday through Sunday from 10 to 10. So
Oh,
we're
wow.
we're here. We're here. So yes.
So give us a last minute word that would you would like to share with our listeners.
I would definitely say never ever give up, which sounds so cliche, but when I say never give up, I mean like keep fighting. And if you feel like you can't fight anymore, find somebody else who is willing to fight alongside of you for what it is that you're truly trying to build, whether it's a business or whether it's you trying to accomplish that degree, whatever it is. Like, you really have to understand that this is your movie. Your life is your movie. So you can hire and fire the actors, you can choose the venues, you can switch up the timelines, you can do all of that. And, the world is a big, big place. So even if your world feels small, it feels chaotic, there's a world outside of your world that is peaceful, that is fun, that can recharge you in ways that you never imagined. So if you don't have that instant connection to that outside world, find somebody that's gonna hold your hand and say, "Hey, like let me bring you with me."
Oh. It was so I was so excited to meet you and just to know that you literally just up the street. So
Yes,
I would love to have you back on the podcast. I feel like this I didn't have enough time, so I definitely need you
definitely,
back.
definitely, definitely. Have me back anytime. Like I'm definitely here.
Well, thank you so much for having the conversation with us about pivoting and never giving up. It had definitely been a pleasure. And thank you all for listening. And I will talk to you all next time.
Yes, thank you all so much. And then you guys can follow me on Instagram at official_Julia, JuliaCEO. Let's go.
Yay! We still playing.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.